I'm Trudy, the lead assessor for the SiteWise team. So a bit of background, I've got probably about 20 plus years experience now in health and safety. Worked in a multitude of industries, including ones such as meatworks, seeds, the dairy industry with Fonterra, and also civil construction during the skirt rebuild of Christchurch after the earthquakes. I hold a level 6 health and safety qualifications, and I'm also on the HAZANS register and part of NZISM. So yeah, have been doing it for a while, but originally come from a quality assurance background. So yeah, I've quite a broad knowledge across lots of different industries. So I'm just going to take you through some key things around the SiteWise certification or accreditation. It's more of a higher level understanding rather than nitty-gritty of what's actually in the assessment process. So it is an online pre-qualification system, and what we do is we actually assess evidence and we grade that based on what comes through. And what that does is it gives the contractor who is providing that evidence a little bit of an understanding about their capability and where they are at with health and safety with their systems. So it is designed to help you when you're tendering for contract work with any main contractors. And what we find is the bulk of people that go through the SiteWise assessment have actually been requested to by main contractors doing big projects and things like that. It also means that any main contractors are a little bit off the hook because they're getting us to do the independent assessment of the health and safety for their subcontractors for them. So it helps them out, and it also helps you out because it gives you an understanding of where you're at in the process. First of all, is it a legal requirement? No, there is no actual legal requirement to have pre-qualification under the current Health and Safety at Work Act. However, it is deemed best practice, and WorkSafe they very much push pre-qualification as part of that contractor management process. And it also shows that the main contractor is doing their duty of care or due diligence to ensure that any subcontractors that they bring into their workplace has an understanding of health and safety, and more importantly, is actually managing the hazards and risks that they're bringing into that workplace. It also shows that they've got good systems in place and that they're actually following their own systems as well. So one thing we have noted around this, even though it's not a legal requirement, we are finding more and more main contractors and principal organisations are requesting their subcontractors to have some form of pre-qualification, whether it's ours or one of the others that is available out there at the moment. And a lot of that has come about due to some recent court cases where main contractors have been held liable because they haven't had that in place. So what are some of the key things to consider when you are choosing which pre-qualification platform to go through? First of all, I guess the first thing you need to consider is, do you need it to work on any main contractor sites? Has that main contracting PCBU that you normally work for asked for it? And is the pre-qualification that you're looking at fit for purpose for both the size of your business and the type of work that you carry out? Some of the pre-quals out there are a lot more intensive than SiteWise, whereas the SiteWise assessment is more closely aligned to small businesses, sort of one-man bands, or any companies that have 1 to 5 sort of employees. That's the sort of target market that we look at. What resources do you think you'll need to do an application or assessment for the pre-qual that you're looking at? And by that I mean, have you got the right documentation in place? Is it a dedicated person? Are you going to have to get help from other people in the business? Just look at all those resources that you're going to need to do your pre-qualification. Who will be the key contact for that application or assessment? We have the ability in our platform to have multiple users on an account, but only one primary contact. Now, that primary contact is the person that all communication goes to, and any other things, any other contact that we have with that business. But you do have the ability to put other users into the your company profile as well. Other things to consider, looking at the different requirements of the pre-qual, whether it's ours or somebody else's. Have you got all the relevant information required? So for our assessment, we actually provide the question requirements on our website, so you can actually look at that information before you decide to register or not. And it gives you a really good understanding of what it is that we would expect you to actually submit as part of your assessment. Another thing to consider is how often does that pre-qualification need to be completed? The SiteWise one is annually, and the reason we do that is we're wanting you as the contractor doing the assessment to be able to show that you are continually using your health and safety procedures ongoing on an annual basis. How long does it take? That's really up to you as to whether you've got all the information that you've got. Some companies, it might take them half a day. Others, it can take them longer because they may have to go out to different branches or different divisions to actually get the information from other people to put it into the assessment. The cost, this is a big consideration for many businesses that are doing any form of pre-qualification. Regardless of the business size, we have one registration fee for the SiteWise assessment, and that is $250 plus GST. Others have different categories which have different scales of registration depending on which one you would sit under. What do you get for your money? You get your assessment, which gives you a report, and depending on your score, also a certificate. And the report is probably the most valuable thing because it actually gives you an understanding of where your specific elements within that assessment sit. So whether they've covered all the things that we ask for, or whether you've got some gaps within your system and you need to do some extra work and put some extra systems in place yourself. And the final thing to consider when you're looking at pre-qualification, does it actually add any value to your business? So other than being able to get jobs with main contractors, is there any other value that it can add to your overall business? One thing that we do find, and we get a lot of feedback, is people use the assessment as a bit of a mini audit of their health and safety systems, and they quite often make changes to their internal systems based on the feedback that they get from the report. So those are some key things to take, to think about when you're actually choosing the pre-qualification that you are going to go for. Why do it? It is a recommended step in the contractor management process. WorkSafe do highly recommend that pre-qualification is done as part of tendering. It does give the main contractors or principal PCBUs some assurance that their subcontractors they are looking to engage have processes in place to manage health, safety and well-being of the workers in the workplace, and in particular risk that they're bringing into that workplace as well. It's also become an industry standard, particularly in construction and other high-risk industries. More and more companies are requiring pre-qualification as a must-have for subcontractors. And in many cases, that's not just to do work, but to actually get onto site. We get quite a few phone calls from our users saying, can you please rush my assessment through because we've got the guys waiting at the gate and we need a score of 75 to get them on site. So it is becoming a real industry standard to have that in place. It also provides independent feedback and guidance on possible health and safety system improvements. So it's very independent. All of our assessors are fully qualified health and safety practitioners, and they do give really good guidance on how you can improve your systems based on the evidence that you've put into the assessment. Some of the benefits, again, I'm going to go back to the main contractors. It's a benefit to them because they know that the subcontractors that they engage do have health and safety in place. And also a benefit to you because If you've got a pre-qualification, you're all set and ready to go for any main contractor that is looking to engage you and the type of work that you do. This can give you an advantage over businesses that don't have pre-qualification in place. And we have noted that within our system, many national level 1 or level 2 contractors within our platform do have visibility over all those level 3 subcontractors in the database. And what that means is that they can pick particular subcontractors based on the score, the colour rating, and the content of the report that they have access to. And then having this visibility gives the subcontractors a distinct advantage for securing work. So it makes it a really good business tool. So they're just some of the benefits of having, whether it's SiteWise or some other pre-qualification in place. So what do you get? So our reports are colour graded. A pass is deemed 75 or above, or we call it green 75, but our range goes from 0 to 49, which is the red band, 50 to 74, which is what we call amber, 75 to 89, which is what we call a pass. And then for those who really want to go for gold, they literally get gold. So that's anything 90 to 100. So when you put your information into the database, it's assessed by one of our assessors. Every element has its own individual scoring for that specific element, and all of the scores add up to that final percentage. If you are a first-year registrant with the SiteWise system, your registration actually gives you 3 complimentary assessments. The reason for that is that we understand that it can be quite daunting for businesses for their first time doing some form of pre-qual, because there is a lot of evidence that's required. So we give you those 3 opportunities to help you understand what it is that's needed to get you to where you need to get. We do find that most of our main contractors are requesting that their subcontractors achieve a score of 75 or above. That's to either become a subcontractor or, as I talked about before, to actually get on site and do physical works. So you get the report, which has your score, and if you achieve a score of 75 or above, you also get a certificate. So if you've got a score of that 75 to 89, you'll get a certificate saying you've got SiteWise Green. If you achieve the 90 to 100, you also get the certificate that states you've got SiteWise Gold. Ways to get or keep getting a good result. Obviously, because it is evidence-based, you need to have the evidence that is required to get a good score. The 75 is deemed a pass. However, note that 75 is kind of what we would deem the bare minimum for health and safety requirements. And we're sort of finding that more and more companies are striving to get that gold result, the 90 or above. The assessment does need to be done on an annual basis, because that shows us that you are continually using your processes and systems that you've got in place. And every year we expect to see the evidence only from the last 12 months. Anything older than that, and it would not be assessed. So it does need to be within that 12-month period. Another thing to help you along your way is to really ensure that when you're doing the assessment, that the requirements in each question are read very carefully. We do put in there as much guidance as we can that's clear and easy to understand, but some questions, depending on what they are about, do require more than one piece of evidence, and they may also require specific types of examples as well. So it's really important that that evidence requirement is read very, very carefully. Also, after you get your report back, the guidance in the report will also give you really good guidance on what else might be required if you haven't got full marks for that section. And in many cases as well, we can determine from the evidence that's submitted kind of where your health and safety systems are at, and we can also give extra guidance on, hey, have you thought about doing this or consider doing this, and that extra health and safety guidance to make you or help you improve your systems outside of just the assessment process. So those are some good tips and hints about how to get your good result and how to maintain it as well. Can software help? Yes, it can. We're finding more and more often that companies are using different apps or digital electronic systems to help them with the collation of their health and safety information. One of the things that is beneficial about that is it tends to be able to pick up real-time evidence. So if a person's out on site and they're doing a toolbox, I can actually record the content of those toolboxes in real time with the people that are there. We still get a lot of paper-based stuff as well, but we do find that more and more app information is coming through. The key thing to be mindful of when you are choosing an app or some sort of software system is to ensure that you can pull from it the information required for your pre-qualification. So it's really important that you know the requirements, and then it may be something that you need to ask your software provider, hey, can it do this, can it do that? And that will also help you from a SiteWise or other pre-qual perspective. That was it for me, a real overview of SiteWise and pre-qual. But yeah, fire those questions in, and yeah, I'll help answer them.
Awesome. Thank you, Trudy. Yeah, if anyone does have any questions, fire them into the chat, and we'll get them through. Trudy, one question we've had already is how can you show like consecutive compliance over time? Is that something that you consider when you do those annual reports, or how does that sort of work?
So because it is a evidence-based assessment and is a desktop assessment, the only way to evidence that compliance over time is to keep doing an annual assessment and keep showing us that evidence on an annual basis. The assessment requirements don't change very often, but we are always looking every year to see that what they submit does meet the requirements of the question. So that's the only way that we can show the compliance is maintained. We can't verify it from a physical aspect because it is only a desktop assessment.
Okay, awesome. And what is needed exactly to kind of be provided for that assessment? Is there, it's obviously evidence-based, but what does the evidence look like?
So it ranges from health and safety procedures, like what we would call a health and safety management system, and that would be all the key processes that you've got in place within your management to actually show that you're doing workplace health and safety across the board. So taking into consideration things like how do you engage with your workers, how do you train and deem your workers competent, how do you manage your risk, how do you manage your hazardous substances if they're applicable to your businesses. If you as a company engage subcontractors, what is your processes for that? We've got some key specific areas that we ask for from a procedural side, and then most of the other questions in the assessment are records that show that those procedures are actually being followed. So, for example, they could be records of toolbox talks that show that workers have been engaged in health and safety discussions, that sort of thing.
Okay, great. Another question that we've had through, why are the assessment dates different? I know they're annually, but I guess
yeah, there's two dates that go with the SiteWise pre-qual. First is the registration date. Now that is the date that the company first registers. That date never changes. So every year on that same date, the registration is due. However, the assessment date is determined by the date that the submission is actually put into our database and marked. So if you were to register on the 1st of August, you would have to register on the 1st of August every year. But if you didn't actually do your assessment to the 4th of September, then your next assessment due would be the 4th of September. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Makes sense to me. Another question from the chat. Should I get a health and safety consultant involved?
Entirely up to you. Obviously, depending on the size of your company, you may already have health and safety resources. We do find that a lot of the smaller businesses, 1 to 2 man bands, or even the 1 to 5 man sort of scenarios, because the health and safety legislation has been around for quite some time, most companies have a really good idea already of what they need to do. But if you're just starting out and really are not sure of what your legal requirements are, we do strongly suggest that you do get some health and safety advice. We can give you so much, but because SiteWise is a site safe product, the first protocol we would do would actually be direct you to one of our regional health and safety advisors, and get you to go from there.
Okay, amazing. Hey, well, that's all the questions we've had in the chat. If there's anything else, please chuck something in. Otherwise, thank you everyone for joining us. We do have some more information out there. So if you want to click on the link or scan that QR code, you can see some more details on the SiteWise accreditation process and a guide that we've created for you as well. And if you do need anything else, let us know. Look out for more of these. We're hoping to do some more webinars in the future and things. And so if you do have any feedback for us, come back, let us know. I'm more than happy to take on anything if you need, or have other topics that you want us to address as well. But otherwise, thank you, everyone. Hope you enjoy your lunch, and we'll hopefully see you all again soon.